Commissioner Brennan.
Here.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda this evening is an introduction by John Moran of our new staff member, Gino Victoria. John, please introduce Gino.
Good evening, Commissioners. We're pleased to welcome our new Operations Planner Analyst, who's online here with us, Gino Victoria, to our district team. Gino was born and raised in the Bay Area Peninsula and moved to Southern California to attend UC Santa Barbara, where he graduated with a degree in geography in 2015. His educational background consists of land use and transportation planning, cartography, GIS mapping, environmental studies, and oceanography. He worked with the city of San Mateo for 4 years, where he started his professional career as a temp office assistant and quickly worked his way up to become a development review technician. His day-to-day role was to process building permit applications for review and issuance, and he worked closely with the San Mateo County Assessor's Office in providing information on local projects to assist them with project progress and values for tax assessment. He also acted as the first point of contact for applicants seeking information on regulations, building codes, basic zoning codes, and permit fees. Some of his biggest accomplishments was acting as the city's project manager for various large projects, including new commercial building for Franklin Templeton, large residential developments like Waters Park, and new improvements for the wastewater treatment plant and underground flow equalization systems. All these experiences will benefit the district in dealing with our ongoing capital improvement projects. Enjoy spending time, his limited time, with limited free time working on his cars, racing at the local tracks, and biking.
Hi everyone. Glad to be working with the district. I could work on some interesting projects and make some improvements to both Pillar Point and Oyster Point.
Gino, welcome aboard. Very nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Before we move, it looks like, can you note, Lizzie, that looks like Commissioner Lorenis has joined the meeting?
He has joined the meeting, yes.
Great. So before we move to closed session for item C, I will take public comment on our closed session item, anticipated litigation, claims brought by Sabrina Brennan against the Harbor District. I note that there is an item linked to our online agenda tonight, including documents that appear to be Commissioner Brennan's personal musings. They are in no way to be taken as statements of fact or in any manner as statements made on behalf of the board or by the district. The public may make comments for up to 2 minutes on this single agenda item before we go into closed session. Lizzie, let's see, Melanie, are you ready with the timer? Yep, looks like you are. Okay. Hang on, I need to change my options here so that I can see who's got their hand raised. I'm going to call on James Lee for public comment.
Thank you, President Reiring, and hello, commissioners. First off, I just want to point out that one of the folks who've raised their hand, phone number 650-455-7191, is the same person who commented at a previous meeting against Sabrina Brennan, the first out lesbian elected to the Harbor District, because he was angry that the gay pride flag had been risen at Pillar Point Harbor, thanks to her efforts. So I just want the public to be clear about the types of people that are going to be speaking against Commissioner Brennan during this comment period. For my comment, I just want to point out that we should all be really clear about what is happening. Commissioner Brennan has not threatened to expose this district to litigation. And by the way, President Reiring, since you opined on the nature of the validity of Sabrina Brennan's comments before you started this closed session comment period, you should give Commissioner Brennan the opportunity to submit a public comment as well. if you want to remain in keeping with the Brown Act and fairness. Anyway, the complaint that Commissioner Brennan has registered is a retaliation complaint against President Reiering, Virginia Chan-Corrali, and Commissioner Matoush. This complaint that she submitted is in line with the Harbor District's retaliation or anti-retaliation, anti-harassment policy. So we need to be very clear about that. I also want to point out that the harassment that's been going on at the Harbor District is not new. It's been going on for decades with previous general managers and previous boards. And unfortunately, the current right-wing majority, as represented by Reiering, Chan-Corrali, and Matoush, are continuing that as we speak. Just to be clear, Commissioner Matoush has also publicly admitted to doing everything Commissioner Brennan claims that other members of the public have been witness to. The only thing he's denied have been the things that there have been no other witnesses to. Keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Brent Turner. You have your hand raised.
Yes, hello, President Reiering and commissioners. My name is Brent Turner. I'm coming into this cold here and just trying to figure this out. I've been interested in the Harbor Commission proceedings only because we were involved in trying to close down the beaches on 4th of July where we were successful to prevent against COVID. And now I'm witnessing difficulties in getting any responses from the harbor as far as closing down. And I've been speaking with your general manager and so forth. Upon that work going forward, I've run across this issue where it appears that there is this anti-gay, anti-woman sentiment occurring and some retaliation here. To my eye, looking at it, I'm pretty clear that it looks like a pretty open and shut situation where there's not much to dispute. I witnessed Mr. Matoush speaking about the Commissioner Brennan in a meeting, I think it was July 15th, and I just can't even believe what I'm hearing. So I don't know what the confusion is here. I'm also confused by our inability to deal with the COVID crisis, but this thing just adds a little more information. And I just, again, I'm taken aback by the fact we're taking our time. It seems like pretty clear we have a retaliation occurring against this Commissioner Brennan. Can we just make this go away and stop belaboring this? We need to address this immediately. Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to call on John Olam next. John, can you unmute?
I have unmuted. Well, I assume you can hear me. Just wanted to say it's unfortunate that you're having the closed session at the beginning of the meeting. It's kind of rude because anybody would like to participate in the rest of the meeting has not a clue. This could go on for 5 minutes, could go on for 2 hours. Typically, agencies that care about the participants and the people who want to be part of the process in their agencies would have scheduled a half-hour meeting prior to this one, or would have pushed this one or pushed the closed session issue to the end of the meeting, which you would see in most cases is what you in fact do. So there is a reason. I don't know, maybe you just wanted to be rude. That's what you're doing. As for what's going on, I always check when I see this accusations of claims being made, and there are no claims have been made by Sabrina Brennan for any type of money or anything like that against this district, whereas that's not the case with you, Ms. Reiering. You have yourself, as Tom would say, extorted $35,000 from the people of Woodside for an ethics investigation that you refuse to participate in, which is pretty much how you've been running this district since you become involved with Ms. Corrali and Tom Matoush. At any rate, at the last or 2 meetings ago, as Brent mentioned, Tom decided that it was appropriate to accuse Ms. Brennan of gay bashing, of extortion. Said to ask the district attorney. I did. Nothing. Asked the sheriff. I did. There's nothing. He then went on to accuse Ms. Brennan of asking for the pornography he had said to her, which was a new accusation. And this is what Ms. Brennan's up against. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call on the caller whose phone number ends in 7191 next. You have your hand raised.
Caller ending in 7191, you may have to, I've sent you a request to unmute. You may have to press, I believe it's *6 on your phone. Unfortunately, Nancy, I'm not seeing them unmute.
Okay, so I'm going to call on Ryan Overfeld.
Hello, commissioners. Appreciate this time to talk. Just on this situation, I'd like to tell Sabrina Brennan to give it a rest. It's 5 years you've been harassing the fellow commissioners, the board members, and the general public. It's ridiculous. You're wasting our time and our money. You're an absolutely terrible commissioner. We can't wait for you to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Overfeld. I'm going to call on Sabrina Brennan next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So before I start my comment, so Melanie, if you could stop the timer for a second, I'd just like to make a correction. I want to be clear that the closed session agenda item C implies that I've filed a lawsuit against the Harbor District. So I'd like to be clear that I have never threatened the district with litigation, and I do not have a lawsuit against the Harbor District. I do not have an attorney, and I've never had an attorney contact the Harbor District on my behalf. So I just wanted to make that clear because the way the agenda item is worded is misleading. So I'd like to start my comment now. The Harbor District's harassment policy strictly prohibits harassment of any kind. On numerous occasions, I've been subjected to sexual harassment that includes inappropriate bear hugs, sexual orientation harassment that includes crude questions about lesbian sex, and retaliation by 3 elected members of the current Harbor Commission who are paid employees. The district's harassment policy defines abusive conduct as sexual harassment, sexual advances, verbal and physical conduct that is threatening, intimidating, humiliating, and behavior that undermines the person's work performance. Offensive visual conduct includes pictures, artwork, and cartoons. Offensively suggestive or sexually explicit communications include invitations, email, and jokes, among other things. All of this behavior is strictly prohibited. Retaliation is also prohibited. The district's policy states that the most important protection for employees is freedom from retaliation after making a harassment complaint. I've experienced harassment and retaliation for many years while serving as a Harbor Commissioner, and I've reported it as required by district policy. Today, I'm doing that once again because I don't want current and future employees to experience the stress and pain caused by a prolonged pattern of workplace harassment and retaliation. In summary, I've experienced retaliation by Commissioners Nancy Raring, Virginia Chang Corrali. Together, they have worked to silence me regarding a multi-year pattern of sexual harassment that I was subjected to by Commissioner Tom Matoush. The sexual harassment I experienced includes the following. Matoush invited me to go camping. He asked me to camp in his tent on a safari hunting trip in Africa. I rejected his unwelcome invitation. To be clear, he has publicly admitted to inviting me on the camping trip. Mateusz emailed me unwelcome and highly inappropriate pornographic photos. I was disgusted by his behavior. He publicly admitted to emailing the pornography. Mateusz repeatedly asked me about lesbian sex while attending board training conferences. Mateusz gave me bear hugs that were unwelcome and uncomfortable. After repeatedly rejecting Mateusz's sexual behavior on numerous occasions, he showed up at my house uninvited and repeatedly told me to resign from the Board of Harbor Commissioners. Around the time the sexual harassment stopped, I was subjected to years of retaliatory behavior by Mateusz and Virginia Chang Corrali, and later by Nancy Raring. At the July 15, 2020 Harbor Commission meeting, Mateusz made a number of untrue and malicious statements. His slanderous and defamatory allegations were intended to harm and silence me. Mateusz made untrue statements alleging extortion and violence on gays, among other untrue remarks. He also claimed that his untrue statements could be verified by the sheriff's office, the district attorney, and the FBI. There's a video clip of this if anybody wants to see it, and it occurred at our last board meeting. The closed session meeting tonight represents systematic injustice and does nothing to correct a pattern of workplace sexual harassment and retaliation at the Harbor District, not to mention the fact it's a conflict of interest. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to try that phone number again that doesn't have a name associated with it.
Caller ending in 7191. You'll have to accept the request to unmute on your phone.
All right, if that's not going to work, how about Celebrain? Celebrain.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for allowing me the time. I want to point out that Sabrina's behavior just now during this closed session is a perfect example of how she uses the public's time and commission to pursue her own personal issues, and she feels like the rules don't apply to her. She was allowed to stop the clock, and she was allowed to speak past her time limit. And there is no retaliation. It is common for those whose behavior has been found unacceptable in public to blame those who are criticizing them and say, oh, you just don't like me personally. You have something against my sexual orientation. My feelings about Sabrina Brennan's performance as a commissioner has nothing to do with her personal life. It has everything to do with her public performance on this commission. I've seen her hijack meetings to pursue personal issues. As far as I'm aware, this sexual harassment issue has been adjudicated by the courts and a decision was made. I would encourage Sabrina Brennan to appeal that process outside of commission minutes and stop wasting the public's time and resources. Please pursue your personal and criminal issues, if they be that, on your own time, and let the community get on to community business and conduct meetings without your disruptive behavior. I really don't appreciate the way you've been conducting yourself, and I look forward to your resignation or your opponent being voted in the next election. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Allison M. next. Allison, you're unmuted.
Hi, okay, thank you. So what I would like to start with is to say the Board of Supervisors held an emergency meeting today to deal with the fires that are raging in the county and adjacent Santa Cruz County, and all of the people and their homes and their animals there that are at risk. And once again, this board is pulled into having to spend its time and the taxpayers' time and the public's time and energy on drama created by Sabrina Brennan. And, you know, I haven't had an opportunity to look at the original sexual harassment material in terms of the email and the pictures. So I'm not going to speak on that because I don't know about it. But I do know that the district investigated it and had legal counsel. When Ms. Brennan moves into arguing now retaliation, what that really means in a legal sense is that there's been an adverse decision impacting her employment or her service on the board, not just whether people vote with you or like you or agree with you. So you can't just claim illegal retaliation because somebody's mean or rude or doesn't vote with you. I'd also like to respond to James Lee and his comment about the person making homophobic statements, you know, about the flag. And really that man, what he said is that he was upset that the flag was bigger and flown higher than the American flag and nothing more. And, you know, it's just really annoying when people get called out and slandered and doxxed and criticized when they're just trying to show up and make a comment. So, you know, what he said is these kind of people are going to be speaking today. What I'd also like to say is that Ms. Reiering did not extort any money from the town of Woodside. She had legal fees that were very unfair. Everyone in Woodside was totally unhappy that she was placed in that situation, that the town spent its own money on its own lawyer, which was ridiculous. And everyone, you know, that is just an untrue statement to say she extorted money and that anything untoward happened in Woodside. So those are pretty much my comments. I hope that we can all think about, you know, the people who are under threat of fire, and also maybe give to the CZU camp fundraiser that's going around on Facebook. And I know that the Board of Supervisors did get some access to emergency funds today for the damage that's happening. And maybe Ms. Brennan can stop creating damage as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Dawn Korth next. Dawn, can you unmute? Yep.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I also want to agree with Brian and the previous person who spoke. I really feel like Sabrina Brennan has used this for her personal retaliation against the Harbor Commission, members of the Harbor Commission, and it's detracted from the business of the harbor. Things that we need, I mean, we were on a previous meeting where Sabrina spent 10 minutes talking about how she was awarded an award from the state of Hawaii. That has nothing to do with the harbor. We need to focus on the harbor and the issues that face the harbor, not the personal issues or personal recognition of harbor commissioners.
Thank you. I'm going to try once more for the caller number ending in 7191. Lizzie,
So-
have we had any response?
We have not. Caller, you'll have to accept this request to unmute by pressing *6 on your phone. So I'll send it again.
And I think we'll move to Mike Alifano in the meantime.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're on.
Great. So, claim all these workplace issues. She needs to look in the mirror. These are the same issues she's created for the Harbor District employees, as well as current and past board members. She claimed that she's not suing the Harbor District any amount, but look at the money we spent in settlements because of her behavior. Multiple employees, not one, not two, but multiple employees have sued the district, and there's either been some type of compensation for attorney fees, extra fees that the district shouldn't have had to pay for but did, litigation, there's been settlements. I mean, the list just goes on. If you look at all the costs that Sabrina Brennan has had the district incur, it's well over $1 million. And it just has to stop. And the best part about this year, everything else is horrible about 2020. But the highlight of 2020 for me is in November when she's off this board. And what she's doing now is ridiculous, which is she made her mom run. And her mom is now running for the Half Moon Bay district seat, which to me is just unbelievable. So these are the antics that she's up to. I've known her for a long time. I've watched her do this stuff. It's decisive. It's all about her. It's all about how she can put her face in front of the media. It's not about the business of the district. So she needs to stop. She needs to go away. She needs to find something else to do, because right now the district can't get their business done because of her. We're always talking about her claims. One point I want to make, she has all these issues about Tom, and these issues happened before he was elected, and guess who helped him get elected? Sabrina Brennan. So she can't do this now. She can't control him, so she wants to complain about it. And I find that ridiculous. And I also find it extremely disrespectful that she went so many minutes, so many seconds over her a lot of time. She's supposed to be a professional at this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alifano. We're going to try one more time for 7191. Lizzie, have you had any response?
I haven't. Caller, I'm sending you a request to unmute. You'll need to press *6. I've confirmed that via the Zoom helpline in literature. So I'm going to send the request again, *6.
And then if we don't get a response right away, we're just going to close public comment.
President Reiring, the caller is responsive. I lowered their hand and they put it back up. So they are dialing *9 to do that from the phone. I'm not sure, it might be a technical glitch.
Okay. Well, if they are able to come on later, they could make a public comment, even if it's related to this item, I guess, right? Is that correct? Or Lizzie, can they call directly? I'm not sure what the right protocol is here.
They could join using a desktop computer if that's available to them. They could try a different phone number. It might be an issue with the phone itself.
Okay. All right. In the meantime, we'll move to Commissioner Lorenis. You have a comment. Oh, I'm sorry. In the meantime, we will move to Commissioner Lorenis. You have a comment?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on.
I don't see a timer, so I'll just go on. We keep hearing from the same people who, there you go, thank you. The same people about Commissioner Brennan. If anything is tiring, it's that, making up their own facts. You're entitled to your opinion, not your own facts, guys and gals. It's unbecoming of the public to use this as a platform to pick on someone you don't like. And as for this process, this closed session, it's a closed session that looks like there is a litigation threat. And as Commissioner Brennan said, there is no litigation threat. So once again, I'm just saying, you're asking Brennan to stop. I think what you really should do is take a good look at yourselves and stop this harassment. I'm done, thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. I'm going to close public comment now. We're going to move to closed session for item C. And Lizzie, can you make a breakout room for us, please?
Of course.
that is regarding a friend of yours, you should come into the closed session and voice your opinion.
Well, Commissioner Ryring, it's outrageous that you would state that I need to go into a closed session because this concerns a friend of mine. You're missing the point.
All right, so Tricia, do we have a quorum without him for closed session if he refuses to participate?
Yes, you do.
Okay, great. All right, so Lizzie, if you could move Commissioners Chankrali, Mateusz, and myself into closed session. Thank you.
With Tricia?
Yes.
Yes, with Tricia, sorry.
And also Rebecca, please.
Tricia and Rebecca. And the general manager as well, or no?
Oh, yes.
No general manager.
No general manager? No general manager.
And just to clarify, General Counsel recommended Commissioner Brennan recuse herself, but as of right now, there's been no recusal. So I just wanted for the record.
So, but she's not invited into the closed session, is she?
Unless recused, unless she recuses herself, she's part of the closed session. And Tricia, please correct me if I'm wrong.
I agree with you.
So we will go into closed session with Tricia, Commissioner Brennan, myself, Commissioner Chankrali, Commissioner Mateusz. And then at some point, Commissioners Mateusz and Brennan will leave. Is that correct?
I believe that Commissioner Brennan, yeah, I think she's trying to speak.
Commissioner Brennan.
So it would be nice if you would unmute me when I have my hand raised so that I could clear up any apparent confusion. I am recusing myself from this item, and I've already stated that this whole closed session is completely inappropriate. I want absolutely nothing to do with it. Thank you.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Oh, I'd just like to hear an opinion from the attorney on the matter of a quorum.
So there will be, for at least a portion of the discussion, there will be a quorum.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Commissioner Brennan.
This is a comment and question, I guess, for Tricia. There cannot be a closed session without a quorum. So I'm confused by your last statement. You're indicating that there's going to be a lack of quorum for part of a closed session, and that's not legal.
At which case we probably will not have a discussion on that item.
Is there, so you're saying there are 2 items for closed session? Because I only see 1 on the agenda.
There's one potential case. It involves several different allegations, and so there will be a quorum for the discussion of one set of allegations. The other set of allegations, there will not be a quorum, and we will not have a discussion on it.
It seems like the agenda should note that there's 2 items, not 1. I think that the agenda is not properly agendized. This item isn't properly agendized. If there's 2 items, it should be agendized as 2 items, not 1. So I'm just gonna, I don't want to argue with you. That's my point of view. So I'm just sharing that point of view.
So Tricia, I'd like to just ask you, is there any point of going into this closed session if we don't have a quorum and we can't make a decision on this agenda item?
So I think the potential case relates to a set of allegations, and there is a set of allegations that can be discussed with a quorum.
We can discuss it, but we can't make a decision.
You can make a decision, and you can make a decision on that set of allegations, yes.
All right, great. Then let's, I think that this member of the public is back on, but we have closed public comment. Let's join the breakout room. The host has invited a small group to join the breakout room, and I'm going there now.
And we're live.
Thank you, Lizzie. We're coming back to session now. We have no reportable action. Before we move to public comment, I want to take time tonight to thank our staff, again, everybody working at home and at our harbors for their efforts to keep our agency's business moving forward. This has been a hard year. And I'll also note that the rules we've been using for our Zoom meetings will continue tonight. I will poll each commissioner in random order for each matter. Commissioners have 2 minutes to discuss agenda items and 1 minute for follow-up. Please remember to ask the chair for recognition by raising your hand on the Zoom platform. If any commissioners need help learning how to raise your hand on the Zoom platform, please tell me now or raise your hand now so that Lizzie can go over it again. Are we all good? Great. I want to limit questions about agenda items tonight to approximately 1 minute so that we can get through our heavy agenda in a timely fashion. With that in mind, I want to note that a week ago, many of us around the county were outside stargazing and watching the meteor showers at night under clear, bright skies. And juxtapose that experience with last night, when many in our neighboring communities didn't sleep as they watched the progression of fires that have now caused evacuations in towns as close as Pescadero. Many of us have friends in areas that have been evacuated, and all of us have been subjected to the smoke and particulate matter that is clogging our air and keeping us locked indoors. 2020 has been and continues to be a time of extraordinary worry about safety and health. And with all that in mind, I'm going to do what I can tonight to help this meeting go efficiently, and I hope my fellow commissioners will do the same. In light of the issues affecting the public tonight, I'm going to suggest that we set a hard limit of 9:30 to end this meeting. Any unresolved issues can be addressed at our subsequent meeting, when hopefully we will not have such exigencies as we do tonight. Now, to begin public comment, the public may directly address the Board of Harbor Commissioners for 2 minutes on any item of public interest that is not on the regular agenda. If a member of the public wishes to address the board on an item on the agenda, please wait until that item is in discussion before making your comment. Melanie, are you ready to share the timer screen with us? Yep, looks like you are. All right, great. So let me hold on a minute. I need to adjust my screen so that I can see participants. All right, great. James Lee, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, President Reiring. I just wanted to talk about legal fees that the district is incurring. I want to mention that the district attorney is investigating a number of Brown Act violations related to the board president, and the district already had to do a cure and correct for a regular member of the public who comments, Mr. John Owen, because of improper practices that include denying public comments. I also want to add that if you're limiting commissioner comments to 2 minutes with 1 minute for follow-up, or I'm not quite sure how exactly you broke that down, but just want to be clear that some of your commissioners, particularly Commissioner Lorenas and Commissioner Brennan, have deep knowledge in marine science and coastal advocacy, and they're part of the reason that items like the West Trail project, what you'll be hearing later, are shaped as they are now, and why the project looks as it does now. And it's because of their thoughtful input at initial meetings that we had on the West Trail project years ago. So limiting commissioner comments, when the whole point of having elected commissioners is for you to offer your expertise and your background and your perspective to direct staff and to direct consultants, is pretty counterproductive. And I don't see a time counter, so I don't know if I'm going over or under. You have to let me know. But what you're doing is counterproductive, and it's clear you're trying to limit commissioner input across the board. I would recommend that you not do that, especially for an item as important to the public as the West Trail project and other projects of environmental concern on the coast. Thank you.
Sorry, James, I couldn't get the timer going again.
No worries, no worries. Thanks,
Okay.
Melanie.
Melanie, are you ready with the timer? Melanie?
I'm actually trying to figure out how to make it do 1 minute instead of 2 minutes.
No, they
So,
have, the comment, public comment is 2 minutes.
oh, okay.
Is it working?
I'm figuring it out, sorry. Lizzie?
Yeah, there should be a white bar on the right. And in that bar, there will be an opportunity to set the time anywhere from, I think, 10 seconds to however many minutes.
It's on the right-hand side?
I believe so. Let me confirm that. Yeah, so if you have the screen maximized in the free timer, and yeah, if you have the screen maximized in the free timer and you're in the countdown timer, the settings bar will be on the right, and you can see it because there's a little gear wheel at the top of the white bar on the very far right, and you click that gear and it opens up the settings panel. There are some preset timers in there. I don't know if you're following me so far.
I do not see it.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to invite the public to speak, and I'm just going to set a timer here on my desk, and we'll do it best we can. Celebrate, would you like to speak, please?
I can do it on my phone. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
great. That'd be great. Celebrate. You need to unmute yourself.
President Ryan, can you unmute Celebrate? I'm having a small technical glitch.
Yep, I did. I unmuted Celebrate. Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you, Nancy, for your calm and poised leadership, keeping things running smoothly, and the message you just sent out. I'm not sure if this is the right time, but what I want to speak on are the signage that is to be posted on the jetty wall. And I don't know if it's an agenda item. I can wait for my comments until it is, according to the rules, but I'm not sure when that will be. And is it an agenda item, or is it something I should bring up now?
President Reiring, it is not an agenda item tonight.
So this is the appropriate time to speak about it?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It came to my
Unknown caller.
Came to my attention that signage was purchased and to be assembled on the jetty wall, prohibiting people from accessing the rocks, the jetty, the break wall, especially on the west side. And I'm very much opposed to that. And I'm also upset at the way that the decision was made, because there was no public opinion. There was no commission vote. It was not within the bounds of a public meeting. So decisions like that, prohibiting access by the public to a crucial cultural element of this coastal community, it's unethical. And I really want to strongly advise you and request that you make all of your decisions public and allow due process to unfold and involve the public and a full commission vote on any decisions, especially important ones like this. So for future note, I oppose the movement or the motion to limit public access to the jetty walls. It's a huge area of recreation, and also some people supplement their diets, especially now people are out of work. You want to go catch some fish so you can have some dinner. This is not the time to be limiting public access to something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I see one more hand raised. Allison M.
Hi, thanks. Yes, I just want to address something that Commissioner Lorenis had said along the nature of everyone that spoke is all the same people or people that don't like Sabrina Brennan. And I find it really objectionable when a commissioner criticizes the public who show up to make comments. And since I don't fall into the other group, I personally took it as my comments could be motivated by quote unquote not liking Ms. Brennan, which I've had very little exposure to her personally. I do not know her as a person. I don't know if I like her or not. I do know how I feel about how she has been a commissioner, and I have observed it for many years. I know a lot of the stuff from, gosh, I'm not sure when she first ran, 2014. It started right out of the bat. I mean, and I've been really aware of this all along, and to show up and be criticized like that my comment should be devalued because I don't like her or disregarded. First of all, how does he know whether I like her or not? And I can like people and disagree with their politics. In fact, that happens all the time. I love people with different politics than mine. So I'm really offended, and I'm especially surprised that it's from him. And then I'd also like to say it's very Redwood City. That's how Redwood City City Council rolls. They just criticize people. I've been slimed by them before, and so has Mr. Lee. Anybody who shows up to the left is slimed by them. And it's really demoralizing. I just never expected it, especially from Commissioner Lorenis, who, I happen to have a high opinion of, by the way, just performance wise. But the other thing, I know I'm running out of time. Like 3-second follow up, it's kind of analogous that he was so offended when it was described that so and so was a friend. He was so offended and then turn around and criticize the public. I just find it objectionable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm going to move on. We're going to try one more time. Lizzie, 7191.
Okay, caller ending in 7191, please accept the request to unmute. You'll have to dial *6, I believe, from your phone. I'm sending it again.
In the meantime, maybe we can move to John Ullum.
Mr. Ullum, you've been unmuted for comment.
Thank you. Well, that was interesting. At any rate, there's a pretty obvious reason why this closed session happened up front of the meeting when typically that's not how they happen. And it did provide an excellent opportunity for people to come on and bash Sabrina Brennan again. So as usual, Ms. Rearing, you use the rules to deflect your agenda on other people. And this is how you run it. You shut the meetings down when you don't like the way they're going. You move items around when it's to your benefit. You cut people off from talking, and then you pretend that you care about what the Brown Act violation was by having a fake redo meeting. You know that the Harbor District is currently under investigation by the San Mateo County District Attorney for the multiple Brown Act violations that you've encouraged per the last time you tried to play games in a closed session. At any rate, should be noted that in spite of all this, speaker earlier did mention there is a lot of people tonight who are scared down South Coast, people who are about to lose their home, people who have lost their homes. I took a ride down there and saw a small community of people who had come out of the hill back there and just south of Pescadero. And it was really heartbreaking. You could see it wasn't that they were just losing their homes, they were losing their community, that it was likely that those people would ever be living together again. And they were watching 20, 30 years of relationships go up in flames. So while everybody's got their attitude tonight, and I certainly am one of them, we all should thank ourselves or be thankful for the blessings that we do have, that we're complaining about these issues and not south of town freaking out about losing animals or homes or indeed ways of life that will never be replaced. Thank you for the time. Appreciate the extra 3 seconds.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Brian Overfelt.
Hi, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak. There was an attempt last week to close the jetty from pedestrians, especially fishing, as it read on the Instagram for the Harbor District. No discussion among the commissioners and no input from the public. I mean, come on, the breakwater is part of coastside culture. I've personally been climbing on it since I was 3 years old, fishing, jumping off to surf. It's a huge thing for visiting families and individuals, as well as locals. It's part of our culture. From what I can find out, this is just an example of more unethical behavior from Ed Lorenas. I heard it was something about birds or liability. If it was liability, it would have been discussed after the 2010 Mavericks event when all those people were blown over it and injured. One gentleman was in the hospital for over a year. Never a discussion. Anyway, something so impactful to the community should be a public discussion, period. You know, as Ed and Sabrina continue to go rogue behind the other commissioners' backs, they continue to waste taxpayers' money again, like tonight. It's Ed Lorenas and Sabrina Brennan continue to serve themselves. The Harbor Commission is for the community. And Nancy, Virginia, and Tom, you've done a wonderful job, and it's being reflected. And I just wanted to say that. And I'd like to end on a very, very positive note. I just want to say that the harbor masters that are currently working inside this harbor they are absolutely excellent. I have a business in the harbor. I have family. We walk around, and I can't wait to see these people. They're great. They're in shape. They're the kind of people I want to see rescuing people. I think we got to definitely reward them, if it be hazard pay, etc. Thank you for 1 extra second. How awesome the harbor masters are in this harbor. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands raised. And Lizzie, did we lose? Oh, wait, look, it's 7191. Let's try again. Make this work for 7191.
I've sent you a request to unmute.
Are we getting anywhere? In the meantime, Mr. Alifano, would you like to speak?
Okay, now am I unmuted?
I'm sorry, President Ryring. Yes.
Oh,
there
okay.
was a technical difficulty with Zoom.
Okay, who have we got on the line right now?
This is the caller ending in 7191.
Okay, great. Give it a shot.
All right, I'll try this again. Can you hear me now?
We hear you.
You're like a commercial. Great, thank you. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Harbor Commission. I would like to address the issue that Mr. Lee had brought up in regards to the raised flag. This was not a gay issue at all. This is all about having a flag above the national flag. As a patriot, I want to make sure that our country honors our country and not something else. To do that is unpatriotic. And Mr. Lee, that is exactly what I was referring to. I am not a homophobic. It was as far as these other issue goes with Sabrina Brennan. This isn't, as far as I can see, this isn't an issue that needs to be continued with. This issue needs to be dropped and moved on. The harbor this is a total waste of time and money of the harbor and your time and your needed resources in many, many other areas. I don't understand how Sabrina is allowed to continue to harass all the other commissioners with impunity. If you look up the definition of extortion and then look at Sabrina's actions, you'll find that they're basically one and the same. The 2019 complaint, disagreeing with other commissioners, is not a reason to bring a complaint against the district or the commissioners. And I will close with this by saying that I am not homophobic. I never have been. I have many members of my family who are been. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And Mike Alfano, I see your hand raised.
I'm here. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay? Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. So I wanted to make a comment regarding how happy I am to see you running the board and the Harbor's business. I apologize for the actions of Sabrina and the spineless actions of Ed Lorenas. I'm disgusted with. I was really hoping he'd bring some substance to this board, but all he does is vote in line with Sabrina and act like he's controlled by Sabrina. So much, in fact, that Sabrina has done the same thing to Nancy, has done the same thing to Tom, has done the same thing to Nicole. The list goes on of how many people she's abused, and I'm over it. So I'm going to also try to end on a positive note here with everything else going on in this world and the fires down south. I'm thankful for Virginia on this board and her insight into not just how this Harbor District runs on the coast here, but how it runs in the county as a whole. I think that's a great thing that she brings to this board, but also to Tom, who has been in business on the coast here for many, many years. He's a customer of mine. And through all this, he hasn't changed. And I'm fortunate to call him a customer, but I'm also lucky to have him on his board. And I thank you and the previous commissioners I had to deal with, unfortunately, Sabrina's negativity and her horribleness that she's brought to this board. And keep your heads up. There's lots of people out there supporting you guys, and we will all have a party when Sabrina's no longer on that board. I promise you. Anyways, have a good night. Be safe. Take care.
Thank you for your comment. I think that's all unless you see someone else, Lizzie, I don't see any other hands raised from the public.
No, that appears to be it.
I appreciate all the public comment tonight, and we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, or are there any items that commissioners wish to pull? I don't see any hands raised.
President Reiring, I think Commissioner Chang Karali is attempting to raise her hand.
Okay, Commissioner Chang Crawley.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to comment that I didn't have a chance to read the minutes. So I'm not going to vote on that, but I'm happy to vote on the rest of it.
Thank you. All right, then I will second the approval of the consent calendar. Melanie, roll call, please. Commissioner Brennan has her hand raised again.
Yeah, can you remove the minutes so that I can vote for the rest of the consent items?
Yeah, so can y'all hear me? I'll amend. Are you looking at both minutes, Sabrina, or just one?
Both the minutes.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to approve the consent calendar without the minutes. And then after we vote on this, I'll make another motion to approve the minutes. So the first motion will be the amended motion to approve the consent calendar without the minutes.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, and with that, and that's both sets of minutes.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So, and Sabrina
sorry.
seconded that. So, then roll call, Melanie.
Sabrina seconded the amended motion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't get that. Okay.
I made the amended motion. Sabrina seconded it.
Okay. Roll call. Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Great. And then when are we?
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from, I think, July 15th and July 24th. Is that correct? I think that those are the dates.
All right. And then I will second that motion. And Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
Abstain.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye. Great. Thank you, Melanie. So we're going to move on to the discussion items on our calendar, and I'm going to rearrange the discussion items a little bit since we have an update as item A. I'd like us to get through the business of the district first, so we're going to move 8 to after 11. And we're going to start with discussion item number 9, COVID-19 one-time bonus for essential workers. And Jim and Julie, this is your item.
Julie, if you can go ahead and go over the policy, please.
Good evening, President Ryring, Commissioners. On May 20th, staff presented. Oh, let me start over. I have too many notes here. This item recommends that the board approve a $2,000 COVID-19 one-time bonus for essential workers who are required to report to their place of employment and regularly interact with the public. This bonus is recommended pursuant to District Policy 6.3.3 entitled Bonuses. 27 employees would receive the bonus for a total cost of $54,000. This would be funded by position vacancies, which are likely to occur throughout the fiscal year. This one-time bonus would be a way to recognize and thank the hardworking district staff who continue to report to their work location in the midst of a pandemic. Staff has risen to the challenge of continuing to provide exceptional support. If approved, their bonuses would be paid to the employees no later than September 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We have some public comment on this. James Lee, would you like to comment?
Thank you, President Ryring. I'm speaking in support of this item. Thank you for bringing this forward. Essential workers are key to handling this COVID crisis. I just want to point out too that the amount of money you're spending on your workers compared to the amount that you've agreed to spend on capital improvements in South San Francisco on infrastructure that the Harbor District does not own. I can hear someone coughing. So the amount of money you're spending on your workers compared to the amount that you've spent on capital improvement projects in South City on infrastructure that you don't own, I think you should compare those two and see where the money is better spent. Not to say that those infrastructure projects aren't important, but it shouldn't be the Harbor District's money going to that. And it should be going to your workers. It should be going to property that you own. So I'm fully in support of this. Thank you so much.
I am, Lizzie, I am unable to share my screen anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, it won't, it says, it won't let me.
Okay, there must be some Zoom-wide glitch that's happening then. Please allow me to troubleshoot this for just one sec.
Melanie, if you can just use a timer.
Okay.
That would be great. I'm going to call on Jacob Walding. Jacob, can you unmute, please?
Yeah, you guys got me there?
Yes, I hear you.
All right. Good evening, Board of Commissioners. How you guys doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
I wanted to give some background on this particular topic that we're talking about, and it might run slightly over 2 minutes, and I hope you can bear with me. And I'd first like to just thank you for your time tonight. Tonight, I'll be addressing you as the OE3 shop steward. I would like to discuss hazard pay that OE3 recently requested and the $2,000 one-time bonus that we're talking about currently. The intent of hazard pay was to offset the monetary hardships placed on essential workers, essential district workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. These monetary hardships include things like medical costs, loss of family income, the need to deliver, the need for delivery services to one's home. Hazard pay has already been offered in San Mateo County to its employees, the sheriffs and county road crews, most notably, which have both been deemed essential during this pandemic. Statewide, other businesses offering employees hazard pay include Costco, Amazon, Whole Foods, Albertsons, Home Depot, Rite Aid, just to kind of name a few. Well, when the first patrolman tested positive for COVID at the harbor, it highlighted the danger faced medically by all staff, as well as how little support we had at that time for the district employees. The district at that time had failed to support or had failed to adequately help with the testing options, PPE, family health concerns. Patrolmen were left to their own dismay, allocating viable testing options about how and where to isolate, all while coming to terms with the potential risk which our own families now faced. Patrolmen who got sick had to quarantine for 14 days, or the patrolman that got sick had to quarantine for 14 days, as did his wife and child. This led to an overwhelming monetary burden on his family. His wife was unable to work and therefore suffered a loss of income for 2 weeks. They had to order groceries, medicine, all to be delivered. Luckily, the illness did not result in hospitalization, which would have created an even larger financial hardship. This was a best case scenario for this particular patrolman. The financial impact was not isolated to just that employee and his family, but it was felt by all who shared a space and were exposed to that employee as well at the district. And that actually encompassed the entire Pillar Point Harbor staff, who all had to quarantine with their families until their individual test results came back negative. Twice at that point is what the CDC was recommending. The second patrolman that fell ill tested negative. Unfortunately, we had to wait 8 days to receive his test results. And that was by nobody's fault. It was just a backup in the state at that current time. But during this waiting period, all employees exposed to that employee again had to quarantine and endure another round of testing. And depending on the time to receive the individual test results, similar financial hardships were faced. It's worth noting that back some years ago, the district had a hard line when we did our last union negotiations, and there was a hard line to remove the cost of living raises in the union negotiations at that time. And subsequently, the OE3 members' wages have fallen below the low income level for San Mateo County, and the members simply cannot withstand more financial hardships. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the world around us, and the harbor's not immune to this change. The duties of the harbor employees now include daily cleaning, sanitization to minimize the spread of COVID-19. Personal protective equipment must be worn at all times, dealing with the public and carrying out duties of the job. With current travel restrictions in place, the harbor has seen an influx of daily visitors wanting to recreate at our facilities. There are thousands of people visiting the harbor on any given day, not just the weekends. The increase in boat traffic, launches, recreational sports, and tourism is at an all-time high. The parking lots at PPH are so full that the neighborhood streets of El Granada have become overrun with tourists. There is traffic traveling east on Highway 92 up until 10 p.m. at night and north and south on Highway 1. Our potential for exposure has not gone up, it has increased exponentially. Not everyone visiting the harbor is considerate enough to wear a mask, which further puts our employees at risk. The threat of this pandemic has forced our administration team to work remotely since March. When the district speaks of risk, you have the luxury of analyzing it from your desks at home. We do not share that same luxury. COVID-19 is not biased. It does not pick and choose who it infects. It can only harm those in its way. When this pandemic showed up at our small harbor, not only did we do our jobs, but the members, your employees, embraced the duties for the cause. They did not abandon their posts, neglect their duties to the community and to the harbor for which they serve. These employees take pride in the work to serve the public. and are grateful to have their jobs. We are merely asking to be compensated like the rest of the essential workers out there on the front lines of this pandemic for the additional risk and financial hardship that the essential workers must endure during these unprecedented times. The proposed one-time payment of $2,000 does little to offset this burden. It is also completely inadequate in its distribution. For example, a harbor worker whose pay scale tops out at $25 an hour who receives that $2,000, that would equal approximately 80 hours worked for that employee, while a deputy harbor master at the top of his pay scale who receives that same $2,000, it only works out to be approximately 44 hours worked. The administration staff are lucky enough to work from home, getting indirect help. They have minimal risk of getting sick and can help care for children in the home who are unable to attend school. They save time and money not having to commute to work. And this totals in the thousands of dollars for some of these employees. To our dismay, it has become apparent that our efforts, risk, and professionalism have not been fully considered. We as the OE3 union have become conveniently forgotten when it matters most. So the question is, does it seem right that the employees most at risk are getting the least amount of help? The OE3 is taking guidance from federal, state, county workers who receive hazard benefits. We recognize the additional policies regarding sick leave, family medical leave, and the relaxed EIB requirements that the administration team and the board have put forward. But these policies do little to offset the financial burden if and when a worker is exposed to COVID-19. OE3 and its members strongly encourage the board members to reconsider the hazard pay policy, which was brought to you for your review in the last board meeting. The COVID pandemic is predicted to get worse, and we are standing on the tracks and the train's coming. I ask that you do the right thing and take care of the employees who risk everything to serve the public and this community during this extraordinary time. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for your comment. And Melanie, I think we had a fail on the time read there. Is there a way to make it a little louder?
I will say something next time.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Olam, I'm going to count on you, call on you now for your comment on this agenda item.
Actually, you just unmuted me. This is Cassandra Clark.
My apologies. That was an accident. President Reiring, would you like to take a comment from Cassandra Clark or from John alone?
Go ahead, Cassandra.
I'll be brief. I just wanted to express my support for the staff who have really stepped up during this time. You know, they're always there for us in the harbor, but during the difficult time, they were there with a smile. They did their job and they dealt with a tremendous amount of waste, including human waste that descended upon the harbor area when all the bathrooms in town were closed because of the beach closures. And that exposed them to even more risk. And for them to just take on their jobs willingly and to be there for all of us, I just want to express my appreciation for them and wish it could be more. But thank you for even considering hazard pay for them. Thank you.
Thank you. John Olam, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you for the opportunity. The arguments put forth by the union shop steward, at least the first couple of minutes of them, pretty much swayed me that the people who are working out there on the line definitely deserve a $2,000 bonus, and they deserve a lot more. What I think, though, everybody who's working in public employment should remember is they're not the only ones that are on the front line. It was mentioned that like Safeway and Albertson workers were getting bonuses. They get hardly anything. And those bonuses for Safeway have canceled. Those people don't have nearly the job security that you all enjoy. They don't make nearly the kind of money that the Harbor District employees make. They don't have nearly the kind of labor protections that you all enjoy. So I think when you all try to appeal to our sense that we owe you something, or that your efforts are somehow more heroic than the person who works at the bank and takes the deposits that I make for the company that I work for, so that we can keep paying our employees in spite of the risks that they put up with dealing with the public all day? Or the people who serve me at Jack in the Box, who put up with idiots who won't wear masks and maybe might get beat up because they ask somebody to wear a mask and they don't have the time or the backup or anything that you guys have. So I'm not saying you don't deserve it. I'm glad to see you get it. But I think you might want to start looking a little bit further ahead and think about where the money's going to come from when so many people are losing so much and there are so many jobs that are being lost and so many businesses that are going under. And for us to sit here and listen to you guys talk about your service and sacrifice, it sometimes is a little bit much. All respect the beat. Thank you.
Thank you. Chelsea Overfelt, would you like to make a comment?
President Reiring, I think Chelsea Overfelt may have
No, I'm
lowered
here.
her hand.
No.
Chelsea?
Hi, this is Brian Overfelt. Sorry, my computer ran. I've got my wife's computer. Hey, I'd like to say something. People that work at the bank don't pull dead bodies out of the water. People that work at the bank don't go out to Mavericks and run safety. People at the bank aren't on the front lines when you have, like, I don't know, crazy bar fights and drug dealers and all the kinds of things we see out here in the harbor. The harbor masters absolutely 100% deserve hazard pay. My goodness. I got to tell you something. I've been hanging around here since I was 3 years old, since 1974. And I take pride in knowing the harbor masters personally. And this group of harbor masters is amazing. Like, one of the guys who spoke tonight, he paddles a board across Monterey Bay to raise money for children with cystic fibrosis. For crying out loud. They're on the front line. They deserve it. Give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more hand raised here. Stella Brain. If I'm saying that right. Stella Brain, you can unmute.
You are certainly saying it right. My name really is Matt Allen. My son had some fun with my channel Zoom over the weekend. So celebrating is correct, but this is Matt Allen. And more importantly, in response to the agenda item, I'm in full support. I think they qualify for hazard pay. If anyone does, they do. So vote the correct way, allocate the funds, hazard pay for those guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments tonight. Commissioner Chen Corrali. You need to unmute.
Yeah, I would like to make the motion to approve the $2,000 one-time bonus for essential workers who have performed exceptional service to the district and the people of San Mateo County during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Commissioner Brennan. You should be unmuted.
Commissioner Brendan, I've sent you a request to unmute.
Okay, I just got it. Thank you. So I'd like to ask a few questions of staff when it's time for discussion.
Okay. All right. Well, I will second Commissioner Chen Crowley's motion, and we can move to discussion. Commissioner Brennan.
Okay, great. So I was just, some concerns from staff have come up. And when I say staff, I mean the Harbor Patrol. So this seems like a great opportunity to get an update from Jim. I'd like to know what the district's doing to protect our staff and to protect the public, but particularly what are we doing to protect our staff? Because there were some allegations that maybe we weren't doing as much as we could. And I'm guessing if that was the case, it's probably been corrected, but I think we should take this time to get an update on what exactly it is we're doing to protect staff from COVID in such a busy public environment.
Commissioner, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about that. Yes, we are, with respect to staff, we are providing the proper PPE that's being recommended from the county and from the CDC and other organizations that have that are putting out recommendations for that. We are providing enhanced cleaning services just beyond the standard or beyond harbor masters and harbor workers cleaning. We've also hired professional cleaners specifically trained to come in and clean and disinfect the bathrooms. And then also when there is a member of the staff at Pillar Point Harbor or Oyster Point Marina that exhibits symptoms of COVID, not necessarily has tested positive yet or even tested, but as soon as it comes down with those symptoms, that cleaning company comes in and cleans the common areas that are used by the harbor masters themselves. We also have policies and procedures in place that masks or face coverings should be worn at all times. Hand cleaning, we've hired additional hand cleaning stations throughout the harbor, both for staff and for the public. And we require the public to wear masks when they come to the harbor. It is not unknown, or I don't disagree with Jacob with the fact that some people do come to the harbor, they don't wear their masks, but we are working with the tenants in Pillar Point Harbor and to work with their customers and actively encourage mask wearing when they're visiting those businesses. And then also when a member of the public is seen without a mask, staff encourages them and educates them to wear their masks. We removed some of the picnic tables so to prevent mass gatherings and away from the eating establishments, because we can't, so we don't have to supervise that. And also we did pull back a lot on non-essential work at the harbor. So you saw that the grass and everything was getting quite tall. So we cut back on that, but we had to get involved with brush clearing again in the fire season. So that started back up again. So we do have policies and procedures in place. Are they foolproof? No, they are not, but they're the best we can do. We did at the beginning of the pandemic have a hotel identified to take any staff member awaiting test results. But when we called that hotel, they were unable to do that. So now if a staff member is awaiting test results, we can work with the county, and the county will help us out and allow that staff member to shelter in place while awaiting test results if that employee would like to do that or not. And we have to work with the EOC at the county level to get that done. It's not the quickest way to get our quickest thing to do, but it's what we have at our disposal right now. Not a lot of hotels are taking emergency workers that are awaiting test results. Does that answer?
Oh, sorry. Thank you for that. That's very helpful. But I wondered with regard to the issues around some public members not wearing masks, do we have signage up? Could we put up sawhorses with signage that says masks required, or what's the protocol there?
We have A-frames with posters on them that say masks are required. When you pull into Pillar Point Harbor itself, there is a sign that is approximately 5 by 7 feet right at the three-way turn there, or the three-way T, that tells the public and anybody in the harbor that masks are required and to exercise social distancing while in the harbor.
Would it be possible, Jim, to, because I've been over there lately and I agree there's signage, but I think people kind of numb out to signage sometimes. So sometimes you have to go really overboard. Would it be possible to hit people with some signage as they're pulling into our busiest parking lot, which is right in front of the concessionaires building? So as you're pulling in, there's like some extra signage that you sort of can't miss as you're pulling into the parking area.
Yes, we can put a very large and obvious sign at that location.
That would be really helpful. Thank you for that. And then the other comment I wanted to make is I thought that staff made a compelling, Harbor Patrol Union representation made a compelling argument for additional support. And I'd like to suggest that we provide staff with $4,000 in additional pay because of the risk that they're incurring and the challenges that they're facing related to working with the public in a pandemic. So I'd like to ask the motion maker to reconsider and that we double the amount of money. Thank you.
For point of order, I would just like to make the comment that occasionally Commissioner Brennan seems to give direction to staff when it's not the whole, this isn't part of the agenda item this evening, and the commission is not voting on how the general manager should deal with signage or other considerations. What is the correct way to deal with that? Because it seems to me that this falls under the category that a couple of members of the public spoke to tonight, which is commissioners unilaterally directing staff out, without the full commission taking a vote on something. Trish, maybe you can comment on that.
So if this is an item that you want the board to take up on a future agenda, you could offer it in that portion of the agenda.
Great. So I think that that's where that part of the first part of Sabrina's comment, where she was directing Jim or giving some advice to Jim, I think that that would best be dealt with bringing up a possible future agenda item.
And just to make sure I'm clear that on the issue about whether or not there should be additional signage, is that the issue you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So just because we're in a meeting doesn't mean that the entire commission is in agreement with one commissioner's suggestion. We do make motions and then we do have a roll call. So, and as to the other items, she was asking, Commissioner Brennan was asking Commissioner Chan-Corrali if she would revise her motion. Commissioner Chan-Corrali. And Melanie or Lizzie, can you unmute the commissioners, please, for discussion?
Commissioner Chan-Corrali, Commissioner Matoush, you've both been unmuted. I believe Commissioners Lorenas and Brennan were already unmuted.
So thank you. So first of all, I just want to thank the staff for the tremendous work that they're doing. They are definitely essential service providers or employees. And Jacob, I totally, fully appreciate everything that not just the harbor staff or patrol staff, but also even our back office staff. I'm willing to entertain a future item for more, but right now, based on the current financials, which we have adjusted as a member of the finance committee, we've adjusted the financials to make it so that we could do this and continue to do the other things that allow the harbor district to operate. At the same time, I want to be very clear that this, again, has nothing to do with the quality of the work, but unemployment in this state is increasing literally in terms of unemployment claims, like 1 million claims almost every month since sheltering in place. And I think that since the taxpayers are paying for all of this, the services, we have to be very cognizant that it was very difficult for me to, really balance what work is being done, which is tremendous, with who's paying for this, because unemployment is not going to go away, number one.
Number two, I am concerned about future liabilities, which is something that I think a lot of the public is also concerned about in terms of pensions, which is the reason this is a one-time bonus. And again, given the current situation, I would move forward with this, but then I would also entertain looking at the financials again to, you know, maybe do this another time so that, you know, Sabrina, I don't want to, you know, make it sound like that your idea isn't sufficient, because I agree it is, but without looking at the financials and discussing it financially, you know, with Julie, who does a great job with our budget, and the rest of, and Jim, I would be hesitant to increase this because I don't have the numbers in front of me with the $4,000. And I'm assuming it's $4,000 in total and not for the 4,000 plus the 2,000. Is that correct, Sabrina? You're looking at the 4,000 in total, not 6,000, right?
I suggested doubling the amount. The amount is 2,000. So
Yeah.
4,000.
Yes. Okay. So a total of 4,000. But anyway, so I just want the public to know that I'm trying to balance the tremendous work and the compensation that I think that they deserve with who's actually paying for this, knowing that unemployment claims continue to go up. Like I said, without looking at the financials, to double this right now, I don't feel very comfortable doing it, but that does not mean, and I actually think that we should look at this again, that maybe next month we look at this again, you know, to add another 2,000. So I'm going to keep my motion the way it is right now.
So I'd like to comment if I may. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, excuse me. I was calling on you, Ed. I'm sorry. Commissioner Lorenz, please go ahead.
Got a couple of comments. Commissioner Brennan, I'm happy you brought that up because I completely agree with you. And I'd like to also point out that the work that our staff does is not just about protecting themselves, it's about protecting the public from themselves. They do an excellent job. I'm down at the harbor quite often, and I try to avoid weekends. Sometimes I can't, and they're there working with public that some have a lot of respect for the seriousness of this, and others do not. And our guys don't have a choice. I have a choice. I don't have to go to the harbor. I can stay home if I want, but they're there and they're working. So I'm totally happy that Sabrina brought that up. And I would say that as far as cost, going from $2,000 to $4,000 is minuscule compared to some of the other things that we do in this district. I find it appalling that we're not willing to do that. And then on the second item, with respect to making suggestions to staff, number one, Commissioner Ryring, you seem to be suggesting that myself and Sabrina in particular, are ordering staff around. I'd like to remind the public, as staff well knows, that one commissioner can't tell our staff what to do. However, we can work with them and we can make suggestions, and our staff is more than capable at every level to make decisions for themselves. And if it's something that they feel needs to go to the board or they don't like it, they don't have to take that suggestion.
Commissioner Brennan, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I did want to follow up on the first comment from the board president. I was simply asking Jim if he thought having additional signage to help the public remember to wear masks would be appropriate in a particular location. He seemed to think it was. From my point of view, this is a very simple thing for a board member to give some suggestions on, especially in light of the fact that it protects our staff from potentially catching COVID, which is a deadly disease, and also from other members of the public from contracting what is a deadly and very scary disease. So my suggestion was made with the best intentions to protect public health and safety. And it was simply a suggestion. It wasn't a big deal. I'm not quite done yet. And so I would hope that petty politics would not get in the way of allowing for additional signage. I would hate to see us have to wait another 30 days to discuss this at our meeting next month, when we might save lives by going ahead and putting up a sign or two in the interim.
So I think we have a motion and a second on the table. Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
I'm disappointed with the amount of money, but I will support it. Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen Crawley.
Aye, but I also would like to look at this again to entertain, possibly another one-time bonus.
Great, so the motion carries. And we have 2 hands raised. I don't know if they're for the next agenda item, so I'm going to just say that we're on discussion item 10, month-to-month tenancy, Catch Joanne Restaurant and Harbor Bar, consider options. And Julie, this is your item.
Would you like me to take this one again, Jim? You want to do it?
You can start, then I'll add on.
Okay. Okay, Catch Joanne Restaurant and Harbor Bar has been operating on a month-to-month lease since June 30th, 2014. Month-to-month leases may impact future revenue streams. Catch Joanne pays approximately $121,000 or paid $121,000 in fiscal year 18-19. Staff is recommending that the Harbor Commission discuss the following 4 options and give direction accordingly to address the situation. Option 1 is to designate the general manager and the director of administrative services as lease negotiators for long-term lease with Catch Joanne. This would require a notice of a closed session meeting between the negotiators and the Harbor Commission. This option would more than likely be more expedient than the next 2 options and allow for negotiations with the current tenant. Option 2 is to direct the general manager or his designee to prepare and advertise a request for proposals for a long-term lease for use of the space in Tenant Row, which is currently occupied by Catch Joanne Restaurant. We would also need to update the Code of Ordinance to incorporate the ability to issue an RFP for leases. This option may or may not be favorable to the current tenants. This would be a public process and would invite all interested parties to prepare and submit a proposal. This option may simplify negotiations by allowing the submitters to provide ideas for leasehold improvements, business plans, and competitive rent payment. Option 3 is to direct the general manager or his designee to prepare and advertise an RFP for a third-party property manager. Hiring of a property manager was recommended in 2013-14 by San Mateo County Civil Grand Jury Report. This option would more than likely take the most amount of time and expense. However, hiring a property manager that has the experience in the current market conditions and negotiation techniques may lead to the best outcome for the district. The property manager could potentially create and advertise an RFP. In addition, the property manager would ensure that all lease terms and conditions are being adhered to, not only for Catch Joanne, but all leases held by the district. A contracted property manager may be a significant added cost to the operational budget, dependent on the services contracted for. The last option is just to continue the month-to-month tenancy, and this could be for a defined period of time. For example, the district may wish to wait until the Catch Cafe lease expires on June 1st, 2027, and negotiate or send out an RFP for both of the properties combined. Another example would be to complete the master plan and determine the best use of the property into the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Julie. Lizzie, can you unmute the commissioners for discussion on this topic?
Commissioner Brennan, Jane Corrali, you've both been unmuted.
Great, Commissioner Jane Corrali, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Just to get this discussion going, I'd like to make a motion to designate the general manager and director of administrative services as lease negotiators for a long-time lease with Catch Joanne, and then subsequently notice a closed session meeting between negotiators and the Harbor Commission.
I'll second that.
Great, and we move to discussion. I'll just say that I think the best choice is also the most straightforward, and that's to continue the leases on a month-to-month basis while our general manager negotiates new terms. Jim has the experience necessary, coupled with an understanding of our tenants' needs, as well as county taxpayer concerns. I just wanted to bring one other thing up, and our current leases don't address a concern that we've had since we've been using social media more actively, and that is our ability to post photos that might inadvertently or otherwise contain photos of our tenants' places of business on our properties. And I'd like to be sure that we would protect the district in such activities when writing these new leases. So both for this item and item 11, I don't know what the language would need to be when using a government webpage in any way that seems to be supporting a commercial business, but I wonder if we could have a friendly amendment that we should look into that as regards lease terms and our intent to use photos for, because it's not our intent to use photos for marketing purposes. And maybe Tricia or Jim could speak to that concern.
President Reiring, I'll start out, and then if Tricia has something to add. My recommendation is, if option one is chosen, that specific item or that direction be provided to Julie and I by the board at a closed session.
In closed session?
Yeah, for the board to give us direction on the lease negotiations.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second on the table. We have some public comment. John Celebrain, would you like to make a comment?
Hi, yes. In regards to the current item, I say avoid added expense of hiring a middleman and continue the negotiation between Catch Joanne and the current situation. We don't need to complicate things and add bureaucracy for the reason you mentioned, Nancy, which is taxpayer expense. So either keep it the same way, it's been working for years, or negotiate in closed session. We don't need to hire a property manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Overfelt, do you have your hand raised?
I sure do. I had to come down here to my business in the harbor to close it. But I wanted to say, as far as the Catch Joanne goes, I bartended there 15 years ago for 15 years. I know Joanne Franklin personally. I know the whole family. I know what they've put in there. That place is an institution on the coast. They're a competing business with me, but that's not the way we look at it. We're brothers and sisters in arms here, and I want nothing but the best for them. So whatever is the best thing for the Catch Joanne to get a long-term lease is what really should happen. I love them and that family with all my heart, and they've earned it. They built that place. They've made all the improvements. It's a wonderful establishment, and we need to get behind them as a community and rally them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Ullum, you have a comment?
Well, I do not know the family that runs Catch Joanne. Pretty much what Brian said. I can't imagine the harbor without Catch Joanne, or for that matter, Jeff Clark's surf shop. when you mentioned best use of, preserving, some culture and some of the past is itself important in these days. In just the idea that Catch Joanne's would go someplace else, or that Jeff would, it can't happen. We've talked a little bit earlier about people stepping up and being brave. I don't know about a lot of you, but I do know what it's like to sign a lease that's going to be giving away $30,000 a year of your profit for the next 15 years. And I admire anybody that would do that in these circumstances. So anything you can do to help Jeff out, Cassandra out, and help out Catch Joanne's in a month-to-month lease, if that's what they need, that's what they should get. Whatever of those recommendations, it sounds like number one is what people want, as long as I'm not clear yet if that's what Catch Joanne and what the Clarks want, but if that's what they want, that's what should be done there. Anything we can do to preserve businesses in this climate is vital, and anything we can preserve our institutions in Jeff Clark and Cassandra and Catch Joanne's, those are institutions, is something that we should all be getting behind. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Brennan, you have a comment.
Yes. So I just wanted to clarify something. First of all, I want to say I support the motion. So putting that aside, I don't completely agree with the way the LAFCO recommendation was described. I was definitely aware of the LAFCO process and the recommendation that Martha Poyotis made regarding our situation with our numerous leases. And the way that I recall the recommendation working and the various meetings and discussions that happened publicly was that there were concerns on the part of LAFCO regarding the fact that the Harbor District has a number of leases that are below market rate, and I mean like considerably below market rate. And then also the other issue that LAFCO brought up was that our fee system, so we charge at what we call percent rent, so people get a low base rent, like the rent might be way below market value in some cases, not in all cases, and then we charge fees based on sales. And that's a model that the district uses with some businesses. It's my understanding with the Catch, that's the case. We do percent rent, but with Mavericks Surf Shop, I believe that they pay a flat fee. They don't pay a percent rent. So again, that just points to kind of inconsistencies with the way the district does leases, and what I would describe as sort of a lack of professional approach and policy to how we do leases that can contribute to inequity, where some people get a better deal than others, and that can result in disharmony amongst the leaseholders. So I do think that the LAFCO recommendation was something that we should take note of, especially in light of the fact that LAFCO may be doing a municipal service review of the Harbor District this fall or maybe early next year. That's been mentioned. I don't know for sure when it'll happen. I don't think it's been discussed on one of their agendas yet. But in light of all that, I do think that a larger discussion about how we approach leases and policies that help shape how we approach leases would be good for tenants, good for the public, because sometimes, the property tax subsidizes leases if they're not market rate. Of course, we want to, do everything we can to maintain relationships with the businesses that have been at the district for a really long time. So there are ways of balancing those things. But I do think having a consultant help us through that would be beneficial. And I also think that it's important to listen when LAFCO makes a strong recommendation, and this was a strong recommendation on their part. I don't think we should ignore LAFCO recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready to go to roll call. Melanie.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye. Thank you. That motion carries. We'll move to item number 11, lease renewal Maverick Surf Company LLC. Consider options. Julie or Jim, would you like to present this item?
Commissioners, Maverick Surf Company LLC lease term expired on June 11th, 2020. Unlike the district's other leases, there is no holdover provisions. Staff is recommending that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a month-to-month tenancy while longer-term alternatives are being considered. The district receives approximately $29,000 over the last fiscal year in lease payments. As discussed in the prior item, options to consider would be to designate the general manager and director of administrative services to be negotiators of the lease, prepare an RFP and change the district's code of ordinances, prepare an RFP to hire a property manager, or do nothing until a future defined time period. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mathush?
I'd like to make a motion to support motion 1 to authorize the general manager to enter into a month-to-month tenancy with Maverick Surf Shop so that the business may continue to operate while longer-term alternatives are being considered.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Commissioner Chen Crawley?
So Tom, I just want to make sure I'm understanding exactly what motion you're making.
Motion 1 and 2.
Okay, so, okay, I will second that motion then. It's basically to authorize the general manager to also negotiate for the long-term lease with the Maverick Surf Company, right? I just want to make sure I'm seconding the motion. The correct
Yeah, it's
motion.
just the way our staff report was written.
Perfect. I second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the table. We have some public comment. Crystalline, can you unmute yourself? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Crystalline from the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce. I just wish to advocate that the Maverick Surf Shop be given what's been motioned. I think it's in the best interest of keeping that business vibrant and a big part of this community and a big part of the harbor. They are a chamber member, they're a huge supporter of the community, and I do believe that it is in the best interest of the harbor and of that business to keep a strong, solid relationship between the two, and allowing them to negotiate their lease directly with the general manager, who has been an amazing addition to the harbor and has been said time and again, he's more than worthy of the task, is again in the best interest of everyone. And I appreciate that that motion is already out there. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cassandra Clark, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you. 10 years ago, we were able to move into our new location there and totally remodel it. In fact, we tore out the whole exterior and put in the sunroom, increasing the square footage overall and therefore the payment to the Harbor District. It's been 10 years, and for the last 2 years and 4 months, I've been requesting to negotiate an extended lease to no avail. So I am glad that it has finally come here. Unfortunately, it's past the time that our lease is expired. This puts us in a precarious position when we're, especially in a time of COVID, when we're looking at business loans, if we need to move forward. We've been fortunate to get through COVID strong and get through this reopening really successfully, but we don't know what the future will bring if this pandemic continues. So having no lease, no long-term lease for our businesses puts us in peril, especially during a time of pandemic. And I want you to keep that in mind so we can have an expedient negotiation and get to an agreement as quickly as possible. I appreciate Mr. Ullum's comments as well and his support. Ms. Brennan, I also appreciate your comments too. I have a long history of working with LAFCO when I worked for the Eden Township Healthcare District. And there are many leases that can take place within an organization that are different. And although their recommendation was to look at the policy, I believe there could be a policy where restaurants are considered in a different light than retail businesses. So this is an important matter for us and an important matter for us to continue in that same location going forward. Finally, I just want to say how we've been very fortunate to be a part of the Harbor community, and I appreciate the partnership we've had. We've done well. We especially bring business during the winter when it's slow. It is a woman-owned, Hispanic-owned business. So you've there in those three, you've got a trifecta. And I hope that you continue to have faith in us going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie, I think we're ready for the roll call on this item.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
The motion carries. And we'll now move on to item 8, Pillar Point Harbor West Trail Shoreline Protection Project update. Mr. Moran will be making a brief presentation summarizing the staff report. Details of the report are, of course, available online and are linked in the meeting notice and agenda. John, would you like to make this presentation, please?
Yes, this is an agenda item, information only. It's a progress update on the district's Pillar Point Harbor West Trail Shoreline Protection Project. We're excited to report that significant progress has been made since our last update. The 95% plans for the living shoreline approach to the West Trail Shoreline Protection have been completed, and significant progress has also been made with final permitting. As district design engineer consultant, GHD, and their sub-consultants, ESA and Brad Damitz, have been working closely with all regulatory agencies to make this come to fruition. We will be finishing up with the permitting challenges, then soliciting bids for actual construction. Once the construction bids have been received, staff will be bringing back to the board the lowest qualified bid for board consideration and approval. I would like to now introduce the GHD team who will elaborate on the plans, progress, and timeline for completion. They will also answer any questions the board and public may have. Brian Leslie with GHD, I think, is going to lead the charge with Tom Gillespie, Bob Battaglio, and Louis White from ESA, with Brad Damitz as sub-consultant as well.
Yep. Thanks so much, John. Let me get set up here. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Brian Leslie. I'm with GHD. I'm the project manager leading the West Trail Living Shoreline project. As John mentioned, I'm joined here tonight with some colleagues, Brad and Bob and Louis from ESA, Bob Battaglio and Louis White. So yeah, if you could take those members of the team off mute, I'd appreciate it, Lizzie, once we get to Q&A, or actually even before that for Brad, because he'll have a couple slides. So excited to share progress with you. We've done a lot since we've met with you last, which was in November. We know this project has been around for a bit, and we're excited to share progress and move to the next phase, which is going out to bid and getting this thing built. So as far as progress, we've last time we met with you guys, we were at the concept design phase, and we had done a lot of great data collection, and ESA has led a lot of that. They've collected wave data in the harbor, so now have a good understanding of waves propagating through the entrance channel and over the breakwaters, and also wind generated waves within the harbor. So based on that data, we've developed a concept we feel good about, and then we moved into final engineering and permitting. We submitted the draft final plan specs and estimates earlier this month. And we also have an environmental document out on the street for public review at the moment. So that's a draft MND for the project, which was released early in July, and public comment on that ends this Friday. Permit applications were submitted at that same time. And Brad has a few slides here in a moment, so we'll kind of dig deeper into permitting. And we're targeting construction in the fall fall/winter of this year, so in a few months. I want to briefly go over our design goals from both the shoreline protection side of things and the stormwater improvement side. So the project really has these two major components. On the shoreline protection side, we want to protect the trail from chronic erosion. The trail's been eroding for some time. Even this winter, the trail lost 5 feet of width in some segments. So it's an ongoing problem, and we want to shore it up with a nature-based type of solution. Prior to this nature-based design, this was a soil nail wall. A soil nail wall alternative was being considered. And based on the harbor commissioners, a couple harbor commissioners' desires, and also feedback from the Coastal Commission, we decided to move forward with a more nature-based type living shoreline type approach.
Can I, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
I was under the impression that this was an update tonight. It sounds like you're giving a recap of the whole project.
Yeah, I
Can
can.
you start with where we are now?
Yeah, yeah, I can
That'd be
speed it
great.
up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I know you guys. It's been a long meeting already, so let's pick up the pace. So, just wanted to kind of bring everyone up to speed on the design goals. The plan has not changed much since you've seen it in November. It still has kind of 2 layers with a cobble beach and rock fingers and a beach and dune system. In section view, it looks like this, where you have the cobble berm and the dune. Analog beach is Surfers Point in Ventura, California. So you kind of have a cobble berm exposed sometimes, and sometimes it's not. Rendering of what the design looks like as of today is something like this. As far as sand sources, so this is new information based on permitting discussions. We're targeting, we looked at 3 different sources of sand within the harbor, and we're looking at the Overwash Shoal as, which is just inboard of Mavericks Beach, and the Masonry Wall as the primary source of sand for the project, supplemented by material from the airport stockpile, which is from the boat launch ramp. We looked at 3 sources, and based on conversations with the agencies, and just physical compatibility, this seems to be the best source. But it has not yet been approved. We need quite a bit of rock. We need small rock for the cobble berm, about 4,500 cubic yards, and then about 500 cubic yards of larger rock to form these rock fingers to retain the cobble on site. On the stormwater side, we want to reroute, as everyone knows, reroute water into the spout filtration basin, which then leads water into the Pillar Point Marsh, which everybody has probably heard. We're going to bury the pipe, remove the existing outfall, removing that direct connection of water to the bay or to the harbor, and reroute this water into the marsh. We want to improve the culvert with a rock line channel. Or I shouldn't say the culvert, the concrete B ditch that's failing with a rock line channel. Assuming we get permits in October of this year, we have laid out this construction schedule. We assume we need about 4 months of time to build the project, which puts us into April for completion, early April completion. As far as anticipated costs, we anticipate the project will cost $2 million with a 20% contingency, so that's stormwater and shoreline improvements. Not included within that cost is native planting and maintenance. We want to use a specialty contractor for that, so we think it makes sense to split that off. Also not included are some soft costs listed here. We don't anticipate those being significant, but we wanted to make you aware of them. As far as construction logistics, we have identified the West Point parking lot as a staging area for the contractor. We want to be very sensitive to the public use and enjoyment of the space and try to minimize impacts to the public. But we do think we need a space for the contractor to lay down to deliver a cost-efficient project. So we've given adequate space for the public to bypass the staging area, and we anticipate the public will be able to do the same thing on the beach where we're doing the work along the trail. The public will always be able to make it around the project and access the Lagoon Beach and Mavericks Beach during construction. Yeah, one caveat there is that we're going to need to import quite a bit of material, and while we're trucking material in, it doesn't seem like it's going to be very easy to maintain public access, so we're pushing for night work. Within all our permits in our CEQA document, we're requesting night work, so should that go through, we'll hopefully be importing materials at night to avoid impacts with the public. Now to give a kind of a status of where we're at and what grants we looked at and where we're at with permits, I'm gonna hand it off to Brad.
Thanks, Brian. So real quickly, if you just go to the next slide. Okay, so John Moran actually wanted us to just mention that we did seek grant funding, and we actually looked at all the grant announcements that came out for applicability to the project. There's one grant that we did apply for. Unfortunately, we did not get that grant. That was National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And the other grants that we looked into, either the type of project that we were proposing didn't meet the project criteria for the grants, or in some cases, the grant award period was too far into the future, so it wouldn't have been useful for the Harbor District. One minor success was this Honda Foundation grant, which is something that was led by California's Sea Grant. And I'm mentioning it here because they're creating with this money a guidebook for best practices for dune restoration and design of living shoreline and monitoring of living shoreline. And the project team was interviewed for this, and looks like this will be one of the case studies in that guidance document. So next slide, we'll get into the permitting, and I won't bore you too much with the permitting and agency consultation, but just a couple important things to mention. The agencies that we're dealing with, the main ones that are issuing permits are the Army Corps of Engineers, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and the Coastal Commission. However, there's a lot of other agencies involved in a consultative capacity, like the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, NOAA Fisheries, and the EPA. I just wanted to add that all of these agencies are supportive of this project and the type of project that we're putting forth as a nature-based solution rather than a hard armoring structure. However, the type of project and the complexity and the different components dealing with the drainage and harvesting of sand and filling that sand and building the structure, it's a bit of a complicated project from a permitting perspective. But having said that, we've been working with all the agencies from the very beginning of the planning phase and incorporating their input into the design. So we hope things to go quite smoothly. The next slide is something that isn't in, I added as an afterthought because I just thought it was important to mention that before applying for permits, there's a whole slew of different studies, surveys, and reports that have to be produced. And these things range, I won't go through all of these different things, but biological surveys and assessment. As Brian mentioned, ESA had a wave buoy out there, and they studied the geomorphology in the area to get more information on the basis of that design and where the sand's going to move to. We had a vegetative survey and recommendations on what type of plantings to do. There's cultural and historical resources surveys, all kinds of different things. I put my email address at the bottom. If anybody's interested in any of these reports, I can send you the electronic copies of them. And then next slide. So as part of the process, the CEQA is California Environmental Quality Act, and it has a requirement for us to investigate the potential impacts of the project. And there's all kinds of different regulations and procedures involved with that. Now, happy to say that we did release that to the public on, I think it was July 22nd, and our 30-day comment period will end this Friday at 5 p.m. That report is also available if you send me an email. It's also on the district's website. And what they found was that there are no significant impacts associated with the project with the mitigation measures that we have, minimization measures that we have incorporated in the design. As far as the permits, we have submitted all of the applications. I think the latest one we submitted was around July 22nd. So the Army Corps of Engineers was deemed complete, and they issued a public notice for that. The Coastal Commission is in just about 30 days, and they've got what they call a filing letter, which in that letter, they'll tell us any other pieces of information that we haven't submitted that are still required. And I don't expect that list to be extensive. There are a few things that we're anticipating, but we're hoping for permits sometime in the fall. It's impossible to say at this point because the agencies cannot and will not say, give you any clues as to when it will be issued. It has to go through that process and be approved by the Coastal Commission and others. But we think because of the cooperation and all the site visits and meetings with the permitting agencies throughout, that we're going to get a good result and hopefully get this thing approved sooner rather than later so we can get it out to bid. And then one final point is that in addition to all of the reports and things that we had to submit with the applications, there's a whole bunch of requirements that they're going to give us of how we have to monitor this project over a period of, say, 5 years or so. Look at the results, how it's affecting the local ecology and the profile of the beach and the down coast beaches, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the quick rundown. I think we're in good shape right now. Everything has been submitted, and we're just waiting right now to hear back. So we'll know a lot more within the next few days to a week. I'll hand it back over to Brian with that.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Brad. So next steps. So when we decide to go out to bid is a decision point. It could go out to bid next week to find a construction contractor and ahead of permits, and then wait for permits to fall, and then work with the contractor through any changes. I would call that atypical. Or we can wait till we have permits in hand, then go out to bid, and then that would start the clock on the bidding process. And as Brad mentioned, the CEQA permits, we're really thinking that fall is going to happen. We're optimistic on that based on all the groundwork that we did. Mobilization of the contractor we think is 14 days. And again, construction completion, we think 120 days to finish once we get that a contractor out there. And we're targeting the dune and biofiltration planting of native plants for the spring of 2020. We've actually already got a contractor go native growing the plants for the dune. So that's already underway. They're collecting seed and growing these plants in their greenhouses, or whatever the case may be. That's all we have for tonight. We're gonna open up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian and Brad. We have some members of the public who would like to comment. Dave Olson.
Hello. Several things. I had not seen the mitigated neg deck. I'm glad it was announced, but 3 days is not much time to comment. It really should have been announced more widely to the agenda email list. I don't see anything in the mitigated neg deck about taking sand from the Overwash Shoal. That Overwash Shoal is a heavily used recreation area, it sort of invalidates the neg deck if you're not mentioning that. Is there any way to barge in the cobble? 4,500 cubic yards is hundreds of truckloads coming in on that road. That's going to be very disruptive to Princeton, perhaps even damaging the road. That road is owned by the Air Force. I would assume that you'll need permits to do that, or a commitment to repair the road afterwards. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Mangold, would you like to make a comment?
Mr. Mangold, you've been unmuted for comment.
He seems to have disappeared, so we'll go to James Lee.
My apologies, Mr. Lee. I've asked you to unmute a second time.
That's fine. Thank you to Mr. Damitz and to GHD and the ESA folks who are here. I'm sorry I didn't get to hear your full presentation. I thought it was disrespectful that you were told to hurry along after your item was pushed back to the very end. I was one of the folks who spoke at the initial presentation by GHD with the soil nail wall. I was definitely not happy with that version of the project, and I'm much happier with this version now. So I appreciate GHD taking on board the comments that were made at the time by the board minority, Commissioners Brennan and Commissioner Lorenas, and the feedback from the Coastal Commission as well. There are things, my background is in marine biology and biochemistry and in wetland restoration, and I'm currently getting a master's in marine policy. So there are a couple things in here that I would maybe change or would like to see a little different, but overall, I think it's a strong project. Probably the only nitpicky comments I would have is that I would just make sure to coordinate that when restoration work is being done, that there is plenty of signage and ways to enforce keeping people out of certain areas to make sure that the restoration actually takes hold. For instance, my undergraduate fish biology class at San Francisco State does a beach seine twice a year at about, I wouldn't say a quarter mile south, but maybe about 500 feet south of where this project is going to take place. So things like that take place, and things like that, if they happen near, and I don't know if the Harbor District knows that even happens. So if there isn't proper signage or proper notice for people that they should be staying out of certain areas while they're being worked on, I think that could be a problem. Also, on those beach seines that I did in undergrad, we didn't find, I mean, I would love to see eelgrass there, but we didn't find a whole lot coming up in our seines. We mostly found surf grass that was coming in from around the jetty from the other side, because there's a lot of surf grass on the tide pools on the other side. And I didn't see a lot of eelgrass, and the water inside the harbor on the inner part of the jetty, well, one, it stays a lot warmer. You can feel how saline it is. It feels really sticky, and there's a lot of there's a whole bunch of ulva, macrocarpus. There's a lot of stuff that just a lot of algae that takes hold and grows really quickly. So
Thank you, James. Your time is over. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. No worries. Thank you so much. But those would be my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Keith Mangold, you want to try again?
Mr. Mangold, you've been unmuted for comment.
Maybe we can move to Celebrate while we're waiting. Celebrate.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to navigate the Pillar Point Harbor website because I'm interested in accessing the document and participating in the public comments. And I see a July 22 CEQA report available for review. And underneath that CEQA report, initial study notice of intent. Are either of those the correct area to learn more about it and comment? Is anyone allowed to respond to me during my 2 minutes?
I was going to respond to that comment real quickly. The CEQA document would be a great area to learn about the potential environmental impacts of the project, get a good project description and background of exactly what type of work is going to happen. So I would say yes, it's a good idea. I would recommend, obviously, any comments need to be received by Friday at 5 p.m. So the sooner you download it, the better. If you're interested in some of the other background reports, give me an email and I can send those to you.
Okay, so click on the July 22 CEQA report and there'll be an area where I can post my comments.
You would submit your comments directly to James Pruitt, and his address and information are all on that documentation as well.
Fantastic. Okay, project sounds good. Next, we gotta dredge it. We gotta save Highway 1. We've been working on it since 2017. And I've been told that that is also an agenda item. So good job on this, and let's move south and nourish our beaches. That's it.
Thank you. And thank you again, Brian and Brad. So we're, I think we're just about at the end of our agenda. Commissioner comments. Ed Lorenis, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Since this project's been going on for quite a while, I thought I'd give a quick timeline on it for the public and for others to know how this project came into being. This started September 7th, 2016. And James, I believe you were there commenting as I was a member of the public. I commented very similarly to you that Surfrider would not support a rock armoring wall because when you put a rock armoring, you lose the beach. That's exactly what happened at Surfers Beach. And we have a problem there that we're going to need to address. Then September 20th, 2017, the Shotcrete wall was approved by the board. I was a commissioner then. Brennan and I voted no for the same reason that we stated in September 7th, 2016. So since it was approved, Brennan and Lorenis went to the Coastal Commission and asked them to review the documents again and to insist that the Harbor District have the engineers look at a living shoreline because the documents that were submitted did not have enough information. And then moving to 2018, after the Coastal Commission rejected the project for the reasons stated, the Harbor District asked the engineers to look at living shorelines, and ESA was brought in, and we have the project as it stands now. And one last comment I'd like to make is that, and this is very important because it happens to be an election year and folks are rewriting history. The postings by our president in her social media claiming that Commissioner Brennan and I did not support this project is abjectly not true. And I've put a PowerPoint presentation on our website alongside all the documentation so that people can see how this played out in the long run. And I'd also like to say that the engineering firms that are working on this are doing a fantastic job. This is not an easy project to do. It is being considered by folks in the field as a bellwether project. And I'm hopeful that we can get it done by early next year. That's it.
Thanks. Commissioner Brennan, you have something to say?
Commissioner Brennan, I've sent you a request to unmute.
Okay, thank you. I just got it. So I just wanted to pick up on what Ed was saying. I agree that there's been a lot of terrific staff work on this. Included in that is our own staff. John Morin has done an outstanding job shepherding this project. We started out with what I would describe as a really unfortunate solution that the board at the time supported with a I think it was a 4-1 vote. I remember I voted against the project when it was a seawall. And over time, as Commissioner Lorenas stated, he and I were able to work successfully with the Coastal Commission to basically unravel the rock wall and suggest that there might be another alternative that would be better for the environment and also better for the public. And I really want to focus on that for a sec, because right now we have a trail that is sometimes not accessible because of landslides. We have consistent landslide problem in that area and rocks falling, and it can be dangerous during the rainy season. So what this is going to do is give people continuous access on the beach, so they never actually have to go on the trail. If they want to walk the entire distance out to the Mavericks Beach, they can do so on the beach without using the trail. So it's going to be a huge bonus for the public to have 2 access points, both the trail as well as the beach. And we're also going to be fixing the erosion problems on the trail. So I'm really excited about it. I'm thrilled with the work that our team of contractors has done. Our engineering firm has really turned it around in a very impressive way. And the whole team, including Brad, including ESA, has just done a great job. And I'm really excited to see this make it to the Coastal Commission and start construction. I do have a couple questions. So I know that to date, we've spent over $1 million on the project. And I think a lot of that's because we basically designed 2 different projects, the one we have now and then the old version. I'm wondering what we expect to spend to complete the project.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair question. So again, we think about $2 million is what we need to construct what's in the plan set. And then there's some costs that we haven't accounted for yet that I don't have firm numbers for at the moment, but I would, if I don't know if you want me to guess, but I would say like another like 2.5 or something like that, like so another $500,000 in kind of the soft costs and maybe monitoring costs that are going to go out like 5 years as is typical for these types of projects. It's not since like Ed was mentioning, it's kind of a bellwether project. The Coastal Commission's interested in how they fare and teaching other communities about these types of projects and make sure we learn from them. So there'll be a monitoring piece that goes with this project.
Yeah, I think it's going to help inspire more projects like this when we get it completed. And I hope this provides more opportunities for you guys to build projects like this in the future. So just want to thank you again.
Thank you.
Great. I want to say that this project's the culmination of a lot of work by staff, commissioners, and some members of the public, and obviously the fine research that's been done on our behalf, on behalf of the Harbor District. Every decision takes at least 3 votes, so it cannot be the case that merely Commissioners Lorenas and Brennan are responsible for this project. You mentioned my social media, and I want to take the opportunity to clarify the record regarding funding of this important project. My social media account merely stated the fact that Commissioners Brennan and Lorenas voted against funding this project when they voted against our budget. The vote to approve funding for the West Trail project was 3-2. Commissioners voting to approve funding were Commissioner Matoush, Commissioner Chang Karali, and myself. Commissioners who voted against the funding were Brennan and Lorenz. So thank you again for your time tonight. I think we only have one item left, and that's future agenda items. And I would like to have on the next meeting agenda a discussion of changing the day and time of our Harbor District meetings. Do I have a second for that? Commissioner Chang Crawley?
I'll second that. That's just to put it on the next agenda. Are you thinking for September?
Whatever our next agenda is, whenever.
Okay,
We
I'll
may
second that.
may have to have a meeting before that. Roll call, Melanie?
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Mr. Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Am I muted? Okay. When there's a motion and a second, there should be an opportunity for discussion. And I have a question because I didn't fully understand the motion. So I'll ask that question now. Is the intention of this motion to do a one-time date and time change for the meeting, or is this a motion to change the date and time of all meetings in the future?
For all meetings in the future.
What would be the purpose of that?
To potentially change the date and time of the meetings.
Is there a conflict or something that you didn't explain?
This isn't an agenda item to discuss tonight, and we're taking roll call for it. So Commissioner Brendan, if you don't want to vote for it, you are perfectly able to say no.
Well, I do think I deserve a little explanation about the purpose of this agenda item. So since you're not willing to explain it, I'm gonna abstain from voting on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie, are you done with the roll call?
Yes.
Great, thank you. The motion carries. Commissioner Chang Crawley? Lizzie,
It's 9:24. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion. Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Mr. Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Great, thanks very much, everyone. Have a good night and stay safe.
Thank you.